And hello, everyone out there watching us live on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Paul Carganilla. I am the Community Affairs Manager for the Oxnard Police Department, and we are joining you this evening, coming to your homes live from the Oxnard Police Department here in beautiful downtown Oxnard. And our guest for the live Q&A this evening is our newest commander, Commander Alex Arnett. Hello, good evening, Commander.
Good evening, Paul. How are you?
I'm so great, and I'm so grateful that you have joined us this evening. And for anyone out there watching at home, we are live on Facebook. If you leave a comment, we'll be able to see it. This is how we are able to connect with you in this live question and answer fashion. So if you have any questions for Commander Arnett or the police department in general that hopefully he can answer, go ahead and start entering those now. But just so you know, we probably won't get to that section for about 10 or 15 minutes, but we will answer your questions as we continue on in the short program here tonight. But first and foremost, I would like to get to know a little bit more about you, as I'm learning so much about our employees and our officers doing these Q&As every week. Commander Arnett, when did your promotion take effect to commander?
June 29th.
So brand new.
Brand new.
All right. And so let's take it from that part of the story, reel it all the way back to the very, very beginning of Alex Arnett, the police officer. How did you, at what age did you know you wanted to be a police officer?
Well, I know I was pretty young. I was probably 10 or 11 years old. I don't know if you remember that TV show Chips with Poncherello, but I'll be totally honest with you. I remember watching that as a young man growing up, and I was in awe of police officers on motorcycles, and they looked so cool. And so that's what kind of drew me to the profession. My father was a police officer in the military in the United States Navy, a master at arms. And so I grew up knowing my father was a police officer and all the things that he would do to protect the community. So that also drew me to the law enforcement profession.
And did you grow up here? I know, obviously, if he's in the military, you probably bounced around a lot. But when did you get to Oxnard?
So I must have been maybe 6 or 7 years old when our family landed here in Oxnard. My dad was stationed out at the Point Mugu Naval Air Base, and we found our way to Oxnard. I actually grew up on Channel Islands Boulevard, 560 West Channel Islands Boulevard, Gemini Apartments, apartment number 5. Wow. So I grew up there, was there until I was 18, 19 years old. Went to Kamala Elementary School, went to Haydock Junior High School, and then went to Wainimi High School.
And I know, I don't know if it's bad form for me to ask, but what year did you graduate Wainimi High?
1988.
All right. So
and that's so I would have graduated in 1988. But I dropped out of high school.
Really?
My senior year, yeah. I dropped out of high school my senior year and went and got my GED. So it's proof positive that you can turn your life around. And ended up getting a bachelor's degree, graduated last year. So you never stop learning.
You just got your bachelor's degree last year?
Last year.
Wow, congratulations.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So first job after high school, then, what was it?
First job after high school. So I worked at McDonald's on the CBC base for about 3 or 4 years. So that was my first real job. Prior to that, I delivered newspapers for the Press Courier in Oxnard, which no longer exists, but I would deliver newspapers on my bike. And then when I turned 16, I got a job working at McDonald's, and it was one of my first real jobs. And I really had a great time working at McDonald's. I learned a lot.
Was there anything else between McDonald's and the Oxnard Police Department?
So worked at McDonald's for several years. Then I also got into construction. I did some framing work, but I mostly specialized in finished carpentry, window installs, door installs, tile work, remodels. Then I realized that I could learn a lot more by becoming a U.S. Navy Seabee. So I joined the United States Navy as a reservist, stationed at the Port Hueneme Naval Base, where I continued my schooling on construction. But my heart was always in wanting to become a police officer. And so after I got out of the Navy, served my time, I was fortunate enough to get a job with the Oxnard Police Department.
Wow. What was your, I've been learning over the past month and a half that we've been doing this, that so many of our police officers started out as civilian employees. There's no chance that you did as well, right?
I did. I was a
What?
I did. So for the first 5.5 years of my career, I was a traffic cadet. They're now called traffic services assistants, but I was a traffic cadet. I'd wear the light blue uniform shirt, drive around in the pickup trucks. And back then we had little Cushman scooters, and we monitored time parking in the downtown area. So we would write citations for vehicles that were parked for more than 2 hours or were parked for more than an hour in a 1 hour parking area, towed abandoned vehicles, responded to traffic collisions, and took accident reports. So I did that for 5.5 years before I was fortunate enough to get hired as a police officer.
Wow. So you were a traffic services assistant for almost 6 years.
Almost.
And then, so what year did you apply to be a police officer? Do you remember?
It was in 1995. So I want to say about June of 1995 is when I applied. And my first day as a trainee was January 2nd of 1996.
I know we're going to answer a lot of the questions later, but one that just popped up was, do you remember who your FTOs were when you were in training, field training?
Tyson Hardman, who's now retired, Rick Klein, who's now retired, Mike Morostica, who's now retired, and Mike Adair, who is now retired.
Wow. Is that common? Would you name 4 or 5 trainers?
Ford.
So is that pretty common? What is the training process like when you're in field training?
It's usually 4 to 5 field training officers. It's roughly 6 months, or not 6 months. I think it's about 4 to 5 months of training with a field training officer, and it was a great experience. I learned a lot about police work from each one of my FTOs. Very fortunate to have good teachers, good mentors, and I can definitely say that if it wasn't for their hard work and dedication as being field training officers, I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you today.
Is there one specific lesson that you remembered and have looked back on throughout your career that you learned in field training?
Just to work hard, come to work ready to work hard every single day. And just knowing who you're working hard for, the community, and the reason why you or I decided to join this profession, which is to serve the community and make the city of Oxnard a great place to live.
And tell me about, because I'm always fascinated by people like you who like knew what they wanted to do at a very young age and then ended up doing it. There's so many people who dream of doing one thing and then they find themselves in a career doing something else. So like you always wanted to be like a police officer, like you saw in Chips, and then you're a traffic service assistant for 6 years, and now you're finally in an Oxnard PD uniform. training to be a police officer, and then you get signed off, and then tell me about like what did like the first day or the first week feel like signed off on your own as an Oxnard police officer?
It was like a dream come true. It you know, when you're a so the first 5.5 years, there was a hiring freeze, and so we weren't hiring any police officers. It wasn't until a couple
Why?
years.
Why was that? Do you remember?
I don't remember. There was just a hiring freeze. Like there were no agencies that were really hiring police officers. You could go to LAPD and you can go to the LASO and other bigger agencies, and they were. But my heart was like, I grew up in Oxnard. I'm an Oxnard, kid, and I wanted to work in this community. And so leaving Oxnard to go be a police officer elsewhere wasn't even a question. Like there wasn't even an option. So I was going to stick around. I wanted to work in Oxnard. Fortunate enough to get hired as a police officer here in Oxnard. And so when your goal is to be an Oxnard police officer, to wear this uniform and go through the hiring process, go through the 6-month academy, go through the field training process, you have ups and downs, you have challenges. And when they finally give you the keys to a car and they give you a call sign and they say, you're going to go out and you're going to patrol the city by yourself, it was a surreal experience. It was a culmination of like 7 years, right, that I've waited to have a police car all to myself and to go out and fulfill my dream. It was an amazing experience. It was like walking on clouds. It was awesome.
And was there ever fear? Was there ever moments of like, why? Oh man, like maybe I don't really want this. Did you ever have that?
I mean, I think you experience that in certain degrees or certain levels, and I don't think it's just in the law enforcement field. I think in any profession you're going to have some thought as to, is this really what I want to do? Do I know what I'm getting into? But your heart and your desire and your want to serve, and you want to do a good job, and this is the career that I chose, and there's nothing else I would rather do. Even on my worst day, I would still consider my decision to be a police officer and to be an Oxnard police officer. Like I've never regretted one day coming to work and to put on this uniform.
So you went through the training process, this 5 to 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
You're signed off. You're on your own. How old does that put you?
I was 26
And
years old.
as far as like what's going on in your life, it goes like, did you feel like that was like the final, not the final step, but like you're living the dream now, and like, were you settled? You're still living in Oxnard? Are we married? What's going on in the life of Alex Arnett when he signed off?
So I'd only been married for a year. So I was still a newlywed.
And so she was with you through the whole training process.
Oh, absolutely. She was with me. My wife, Emmy, was with me when I was a cadet. She was with me when I went through the academy. She was with me when I went through the field training process. She's still with me. She's been with me through this journey the entire time, right there by my side. And so it was learning together how to work through the various stages and challenges that I faced as a young police officer, wanting to do good, and throughout my entire career. So definitely wouldn't be where I'm at in my career without the love and support of my wife, as well as my family and friends.
It is very important to have that support system.
Absolutely.
Mean, in any career, but
yes.
Especially when it's a job as stressful as being a police officer. we'll get to your question soon, Mr. Miranda. Um, so, about how many years were you on patrol assignments?
I was a patrol officer for 5 years. 2 of those years, I was a field training officer, and then very fortunate throughout my career to have worked a variety of assignments. Um, I worked investigations. I was in the traffic unit for 5 years on a motorcycle. Fulfilled my dream of riding a motorcycle in a police uniform. Was very fortunate to promote through the ranks.
So you made it to your dream. You're
I
a
did.
traffic officer in Oxnard.
I did. I made it.
That's amazing. Um, and so then the first step up is what? Senior officer?
Senior officer.
How many years in were you?
I was probably, I want to say maybe 12 years in.
12 years in, and then you became sergeant. I should have given you this in advance.
I want to say maybe 7 years ago, I promoted to sergeant. So I was a sergeant for about 7 years.
That's a lot of years you keep talking about. So from like when you got hired as a traffic service assistant to now our newest commander, how many years?
Till right now.
Yeah.
I've got, so September will be 30 years altogether with the city and the department.
Wow. That's incredible. And so like you're basically done, right?
I'm sorry?
You're basically done, right? You're ready to retire?
No, I've still got a lot of energy. I still got a lot more to do.
I'm not trying to get you out of here. I just what I meant to say or lead into was as our newest commander, what are your goals? What do you see? What challenges do you see in front of you, and what are you most excited about?
I'm most excited to be working with the men and women of the Oxnard Police Department. As the newest member of command staff, I've got a lot of great commanders that and I work with 2 great assistant chiefs and the chief of police, looking at continuing to be a progressive organization, looking at other ways that we can partner with the community, build long-lasting relationships, and as we continue to grow and move forward, making sure that we leave when we do retire and when we finally move on to other things, that we have other officers that we've mentored and coached that are ready to take our place so that we continue to move forward as a great organization.
It's been quite a year in policing, right?
It's been a challenging year, but I think we're going to, I know that we're going to do well. We're going to continue to move forward. We're going to make some great strides, and I'm optimistic everything's going to be okay.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now you were just most recently the sergeant in the supervising the personnel and training, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. Whew. So if people have any questions about our hiring process, can they ask here?
Absolutely.
Cool. So if you're sitting at home, we got about 10 minutes now to answer any questions that you have. And if you have any questions about the hiring process, this is the perfect person to ask right here in front of us. I'll just scroll back to the top of the chat here and start from there. Jesse Magoon says, Chips, Roger 10, Mary Nancy 7, David. You probably.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right.
Bill Ennis Jr. says he has a brother who retired from the PD. Do you know?
Bill Ennis?
Ennis, E-N-N-I-S?
Marty, yeah, Marty Ennis.
Okay.
Retired from here a while back.
Rose says, congratulations on earning your degree. That's quite a feat as a full-time employee. What kind of a challenge was that, like earning your degree and working full-time?
It could be challenging, but just like anything else, you set your heart to it, you set objectives and goals, and regardless of what challenges or roadblocks are placed in front of you, you're going to find a way to get it done. You know, I told you that I'd made a poor decision earlier on in my life by not graduating from high school, but that didn't stop me moving forward. You know, I went and got my GED and realized that I wanted to be that person who puts on the cap and gown and walks across that stage. And regardless of my age, regardless of where I'm in my career, that was something that I was always going to work towards. And like I said, regardless of what challenges or roadblocks are placed in front of you, you put your heart into it, you put effort into it, and you can accomplish anything.
You're so eloquent. Like everything you say, I'm like, yes. And you're inspiring me in this interview. It's great. Randy wants to know how motor school was. Can you tell us about motor school?
Motor school. So I was very, very lucky to go to one of the best motor schools around, which is the San Bernardino Motor School. A lot of the motorcycle officers that I served with went through the San Bernardino Motor School. At that time, there were only really two motor schools. The California Highway Patrol had one, or has one, I believe, up in Sacramento, and then San Bernardino. And just my own personal opinion, I always thought, not to disrespect any of the California Highway Patrol officers out there, but San Bernardino, always thought San Bernardino was like one of the strongest motor schools. You know, motor school is a 2-week-long process. My agency did a very good job preparing me for motor school. You learn how to manipulate a 1,200-pound motorcycle at very slow speeds through a series of cone patterns without dropping your motorcycle. And then they also teach you some high-speed safety, collision avoidance type maneuvers, and you have to show competency on the motorcycle throughout every stage of the process in order for you to graduate from motor school. And you'll see a lot of the motor officers that wear the wing and the arrow symbol on their uniform sleeve. You only get to wear that wing and the arrow symbol on your sleeve when you successfully pass motor school. So that's what I work towards, is getting that patch. I was lucky enough to be successful at that.
And that was your dream come true.
That was my dream come true.
Michelle Wood wants to know what the craziest or funniest moment that you can tell live on the internet of your career has been so far.
The craziest or the funniest?
Something you can share live online.
They all bleed together. I'll tell you that some of the funnest times were definitely was as a traffic officer. We got the opportunity to escort the Dallas Cowboys from Point Magoo over to the Radisson Hotel on Vineyard multiple times. We escorted the Blue Angels, and just working multiple escorts and working together as a team to accomplish a common goal. The camaraderie that goes along with working with within a unit, a close, tight-knit group of individuals. The funnest times I had was working on that motorcycle. I'll never forget those times.
That's awesome. You said you were FTO, field training officer, for 2 years?
Yes.
Eduardo Miranda would like to know, who was your favorite trainee during that time?
So there was a guy that we hired by the name of Eduardo Miranda, who is now retired, ended up getting his doctorate Yeah, so Eduardo Miranda was one of my trainees. And it's funny,
Recently retired Commander
recently
Miranda.
retired commander.
Yes.
What's funny about Eduardo is that when I started here as a traffic cadet, Eduardo was a traffic cadet as well. He was a cadet for a very short period of time, but he and I we were teammates. And he left to go back to college. He had goals and objectives that he wanted to fulfill. He ends up coming back many years later while I was a field training officer, and he was one of my trainees. And I'm proud to say that he did incredibly well, especially through the field training process, but throughout his entire career, an amazing, amazing man, family man, amazing officer, and I'm proud to say was one of my mentors. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
And that's the reward he gets for watching our Facebook Live. Thank you, Commander, retired Commander. I know what your answer to this is, but I believe it's your wife who's asking if you had a favorite assignment, patrol, motor, detective, etc. I'm pretty sure I know, but go ahead.
You know, so my favorite, you have, it's like kids, like you have three kids, like which one's your favorite? Like, and each one of them is different, right? I've been lucky enough to work in a variety of assignments. So I've done a lot throughout my career. I worked investigations and major crimes. I worked in the violent crimes unit, and I was in the traffic unit. So each one of them they're different and different experiences. They're all great, but I will always have a special place in my heart for the traffic unit.
And Todd, we got a couple of more questions in a couple of more minutes here. Todd wants to know, growing up here, being homegrown, did you ever have to deal with arresting a friend or somebody you went to high school with, and how was that? Without giving out any names or anything.
No, I've never had to deal with arresting like a close friend. There have been some situations where I've had to encounter associates, people that I know, and it's unfortunate, but that comes with the job, and we're professionals, and we deal with it and we move on. But it's a small town. I've been fortunate enough not to have too many of those situations, but it comes with the job.
And this is a question that actually comes to me. Joey wants to know if the Oxnard Police Department will have a Citizens Academy. I know we've done it in the past. There was a question of whether or not we were going to have one this year, if we were going to have the resources to be able to host one. And I believe you and I had a couple of meetings about it.
We did.
But then, of course, with COVID and everything, we had to cancel those plans, and unfortunately, the junior academy as well this summer. Mm-hmm. So hopefully in the future, hopefully next year, Joey, just keep watching our social media. I'll make sure I let you know about it if and when it's coming up. He also has another question that is specifically for you, or at least for the personnel division. What is the age limit? Is there a young or an old age limit in the hiring application process?
Now, I believe you have to at least be 21 and a half to apply, and the age limit on the back end, I don't recall if there is one. You just have to be able to pass the physical agility portion, and definitely the academy. So I can't recall the back end age of it.
And I think we have one last one. I don't know if this is more of like a patrol/enforcement question, but do you know what can we share about our response to like COVID related, like large gatherings? And I've been getting calls to people not wearing masks. Mm-hmm. What kind of response do you know if is patrol having out there?
Well, we just want people to comply. If we do see large gatherings, we'll do our best to remind them that COVID is still out there, that that they do need to take precautions, practice social distancing, and do what is necessary to protect themselves as well as others. So again, we just want people to understand that COVID's still there, gain compliance, wear masks, and continue to practice social distancing.
Yeah, and I think like a big part of what we're aiming to do is to continue to educate people on the importance of following the county and state guidelines at this time, and remind people that it's not only still out there, but it's like, as worse as it's been the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But that is our time, and I think we got through all the questions here. Commander, there are so many positive comments here, people who knew you, and people who are just impressed with like you going back and getting your bachelor's. I hope you'll go back and read all these comments here on the feed. Thank you, everybody at home, for tuning in and interacting with us live here on the live Q&A on Facebook. And thank you, above all, thank you, Commander Arnett, for being my guest here. And congratulations on your recent promotion to Commander.
I appreciate it, Paul. Thanks for inviting me. And thank you for being you.
My pleasure. It's the least I can do. And thanks again, everybody. We'll be back with you next week here live on Facebook with another live Q&A with an employee of the Oxnard Police Department. Thank you so much.